TheLandofIsrael.com and Israel National TV present Ari Abramowitz and Jeremy Gimpel. Live from the heart of Israel, it's Tuesday Night Live in Jerusalem. Live from the heart of Israel, welcome to Tuesday Night Live in Jerusalem.
בכל יום שיבוא אוי אני מאמין אוי אני מאמין אוי אני מאמין.
Shalom and welcome to Tuesday Night Live in Jerusalem. This week's show is about Shavuot. Many call it Pentecost. Took me a while to remember that, and I'm relieved. I feel like the show is now over. Now, as many of you know, Jeremy and I have a radio show on Israel National Radio on Arutz Sheva, the only independent radio network in the Middle East, the voice of truth to the world. And this past week we had on a very special guest. His name was Professor John Mersheimer. Has anyone heard of him? He's a very well-respected professor at University of Chicago, Political Science Department. And along with his partner, Professor Stephen Walt of Harvard University, they wrote a book called The Israel Lobby. And basically the book is painting a picture that AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, that lobbies the United States government for Israel, as well as the Israeli government, as well as many of the Jewish and some non-Jewish neoconservatives in the government, they are so disproportionately influential that they are really undermining America's best interest for Israel. Now, it's a very sort of advanced, sophisticated form of anti-Semitism. The real threat is this, because we all know that Israel is the Jew among the nations. And there was one part of this discussion that we had with him that was been ringing in my head that really stood out. We were discussing a number of things, and I tried to paint a picture that what's really happening here is a spiritual war. It's a religious war. Islam means submission, and a fundamental tenet of Islam is global domination. And that is why, because he went on to say before this that, well, Hamas will have to accept Israel's existence and then they can make peace. However ludicrous that could possibly be. And I said the reason that they never would, they never could, Hamas, the Hezbollah, the Fatah, Abu Sayyaf, Al-Qaeda, the reason they could never possibly accept Israel is because being a fundamental tenet that global domination, the fact that there's any independent Jewish state, even if it's one square city block in Tel Aviv, it would disprove Islam from being the ultimate religion and Allah from being the ultimate, most powerful God. And they could never accept that. And I laid this out for the professor, along with a number of other arguments, and I said, so? And he said, bottom line, I could never accept that. He could never accept that argument. And I was thinking, he's a professor, he's an academic. What does that mean he can never accept that? It's not open for discussion. He should be able to follow whatever line of reasoning or truth and really pursue and seek the truth. But in America, talking about God or religion is not accepted dialogue. It's not part of the conversation. Which of course means that if his entire worldview is founded on a principle that there's no God, and indeed there is, then all of his extrapolations and everything he builds upon that is false. And that's the sad thing. That really, that's an American perspective. They can't talk about God or religion because really to them, all religions are the same. There's Judaism and Christianity and Islam and Baha'i and everything else, and it's all the same. And unfortunately, my experience has been, as I travel through the world, that so many Jews really believe that too. They believe that Judaism is just like all other religions. It just happens to be our religion, but there's nothing inherently more true about it than any other religion, because every other religion is based on faith. And Judaism as well, based on faith. But that's such a flaw, that's such a misunderstanding of what Judaism is, because as opposed to all other religions, we are not allowed to accept anything based purely on faith. We have to be like Avraham Avinu, Abraham, our forefather, who when he was born, he investigated and he second-guessed every belief system that was thrown at him, and we have to do the same. Rabbeinu Bechaya, he asks the question, are you to accept Jewish ideals on the authority of those rabbis learned in Torah and tradition and exclusively rely on their traditions? He says, no, on the contrary, the Torah expressly bids you to reflect and exercise your intellect on such themes. After you have attained knowledge by methods of tradition, which cover all the precepts of law, you should investigate with your reason, understanding and judgment until the truth becomes clear and false ideas are dispelled.
To say that Judaism is the same as all other religions just because we have a text and we have a God and all religions are the same as all other religions, Shavuot is here to prove that to be not the case. Shavuot changes the prism, it changes the perspective. Judaism is distinct and unique because of the Sinai experience. Every other religion in the world follows a certain pattern or a certain narrative. There's one man who receives some divine revelation, he gathers followers, and then continues to spread the word about that religion. Buddha, for example, when he was 35 years old, meditated under a tree for 49 days. He achieved enlightenment and then began teaching the truth that he had discovered. Paul, on his way to Damascus, saw a vision, and then he became the first Christian missionary. Muhammad had what seems like some sort of epileptic seizure, and then began teaching the truth that God revealed to him. Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, had a conversation with Moroni, an angel, and he translated golden tablets into English from ancient scripture that the angel told him. All of these things, all of the religions, every cult leader in the world, it was one charismatic man that had some sort of revelation and then began to spread the word, to teach, to gather followers, and to spread those ideas. Judaism is so different. Judaism is different. It's distinct and unique from all these other religions. Because did those people achieve enlightenment? Did they have those visions? Honestly, we'll never know. Just like Ari said, either you're going to believe or you're not going to believe. But Judaism is so different because millions of people, the entire nation of Israel, stood at Mount Sinai and heard God speak. That experience impressed upon our neshamas was then passed down father to son, mother to daughter, generation after generation. Every Jew alive today, whether he's religious or not religious, can go back 4 or 5 generations and find a great-great-grandparent that believed with all of their heart that God gave us the Torah at Mount Sinai. And he believed that because that's what his father told him. And he believed that because that's what his father told him. Judaism is unique only and mostly because of Shavuot. This isn't a matter of belief. It's a matter of who we are. What's so special about Shavuot? There's no mitzvah in the house. Sukkah, you have to sit in a sukkah for 7 days. Pesach, you have a seder, you eat matzah in your house. Shavuot, the only mitzvah is to go to the temple and experience that experience. The question is why? What is it about Shavuot? What is the Torah trying to teach us? What happens in the temple between the Kruvim, is divine revelation. We're commanded to ascend to the Temple Mount because it's not about our personal lives. It's not about what happens in our home. The entire experience of Shavuot is to ascend to the Temple Mount and to then once again relive that Sinai experience, because it's that Sinai experience that proves to the entire world that Judaism is true, that the Torah is true. And every year we relive that experience once again. So to really experience Shavuot, to really experience that divine revelation, you can't do it in Borough Park, and you can't do it in Cedarhurst. The only place to really experience Shavuot, even today, when the temple isn't built, is to walk through the streets of Jerusalem as all of us flock to the old city, and then to really feel that divine revelation, even today.
Now we have with us our resident expert at whatever the show happens to be about that week. He's the director of Israel National Radio, a visionary, a philosopher, and I will keep on coming up with words until I see him. There he is. Yishai Fleisher.
I was at a brit recently, a circumcision ceremony in Hebron, in Hebron. That's the city where the forefathers are buried, and of course the matriarchs as well. And my next door neighbor, my good friend Guy, that's an Israeli name, Guy. He's a nice guy, his name is Guy. And his son was born, he was having a brit there, and he brought one of these top circumcisers, top mohel, okay? And he came from the Tel Aviv area, and he was a chassid, and he had payas, side locks, and he was wearing a big coat and nice glasses, and he looked serious, and he was a Jew. He knew his Jewishness. And I sat next to him before the ceremony, and I said, "I'm so glad you're here." So he goes to me, I'll say it in Hebrew first, he said, "זה סיפור להגיע לפה." It's not so easy to get here. It's a story. It takes a whole effort to get here. So I was like, there's certain buttons you push on me. That was a button. He hit the button. I said, man, 2,000 years we've been waiting to come to this place. 2,000 years! You guys ever heard of Caleb ben Yefuneh? Caleb, the son of Yefuneh. This guy, he had to go into Hebron under the threat of giants, and he went in and he prayed there, and he was like, we're home finally, and everybody else rejected it, but he took his life into his own hands just to come to Hebron. And I said, you, Mr. Jew Mohel, okay, you could take the 160 bus from the central bus station to Hebron, drops you right off in the front, you walk up the stairs, and you're in. The Israeli army protects you, and you're gold. So it's a sipur, it's a big effort to get here. I think you're missing the point. And at this point, the guy turned to me and he goes, this is Israel, right? So he says to me, so Dick.
You're right.
You're right. That's what he said. You're right. And that was it. And I think the story says two things. First thing, it says that the greatest danger that we have, one of the greatest dangers at least, is just taking it for granted. It's so easy. Because God's miracle is unbelievable. The economy in this country is booming. Jerusalem is being built. Everything looks amazing. We have an IDF that defends us with all the problems. At the end of the day, we're living the miracle. But that miracle can be our very undoing when we take it for granted. When we don't understand what we have in our own hands, we just take it for granted. I go to the hospital sometimes to visit people. You stop taking it for granted. When you realize that people are sick, when you look around the world, you see the world is challenged. But when you see you have in Israel, you say, thank you, God. And how does that connect to Shavuot, Ari?
King David, it's his birthday.
It's true. It is his birthday, like mine, I guess. Thank you. That was a good answer, but not the answer I was looking for. It's all right. Don't worry. The answer I was looking for is that Shavuot is also the holiday of the Bikurim, the first fruits. And what that really means is that after you've planted and you've sown, and suddenly the fruits are coming out, and you've got everything, and you've waited 3 years for them to be ready, because you can only eat them on the 4th year, then you take those fruits, instead of being like, oh goody, just eating it, well, there you go, I got it, it's fine. I did all the work and now it's mine. You say, hold on, hit the brakes, let's go to Jerusalem, and thank God for the blessing that He gave us. Thank you, God, for those fruits. Thank you, God, for the miracle. And that's what Shavuot is all about. Shavuot is about not taking it for granted. Well, and so with that, I just want to say to everybody, let's not take this show for granted, Ari and Jeremy and everybody here. Let's not take ourselves for granted. The fact that we got here, the fact that we're in Israel, everybody head towards the Western Wall and ask God for more. We're not taking it for granted what you gave us, but we want even more. Happy Shavuot, everybody.
Have a mic, touch the mic.
I'll keep the mic on.
One other thing that we cannot take for granted is downtown Jerusalem. Jeremy and I hit the streets, and we were seeing how the Jews of Jerusalem were preparing for Shavuot. Now, we all know that every single mitzvah in the Torah, we don't say one is more important than the other. They're all so important to all of us that they're all cherished and priceless. But we wanted to find out what the favorite mitzvah is, the favorite commandment of so many of the Jews of Jerusalem. And if any of you have ever had any doubts why or if the Jewish people are God's chosen people, this video will put those to rest. We want you to meet the streets of Jerusalem.
And now, meet the street with Ari and Jeremy.
כל היסוד של עם ישראל נוסד בשבועות, בהר סיני, שבני ישראל קיבלו את התורה, את כל עשרת הדיברות, את כל המורשת שלנו, בתכל'ס זה היה בשבועות.
What does the holiday of Shavuot, Pentecost, mean to you?
Mean to me, it's one of the 3 times when the pilgrims came to Jerusalem. It was the only times they could come. It means a lot to me. I love to be in Jerusalem I don't live in Jerusalem, but I love to be here on Shavuot, to feel the feeling of being part of a process that's been going on for thousands of years. It's great to feel, you feel the atmosphere of Shavuot, in Shavuot when you're in Jerusalem.
בשבועות עולים לרגל, אז אני קורא לכל מדינות העולם, כל היהודים בכל התפוצות, תבואו ותחזקו את עיר הבירה של ירושלים, מניו יורק ועד קצה השני של מדינת העולם.
Shavuot is coming up. We celebrate the giving of the Torah. What's your favorite mitzvah in the Torah?
Ooh, that's really hard.
You want me to pick one out of 613?
You can list a few.
I have to think about that one.
We're waiting. The audience is waiting. Millions of people around the world are all waiting. What do you think?
I would have to say maybe Hachnasat Orchim, something along those lines.
Hachnasat Orchim, welcoming guests.
Yes, welcoming guests.
Being good to people, being helpful to people, giving charity, keeping Shabbos. Keeping Shabbos is the first one, of course. Being a good Jew and loving people.
Sharing kindnesses with people.
Being good to people.
My favorite mitzvah is remembering ancestors and paying respects to those who passed away. That's my favorite mitzvah. And, visiting the sick.
It's helping others, to help others in need.
What is your favorite commandment?
To have one God, for there to be one God only. That would have to be everybody's favorite.
My favorite mitzvah is to take the mitzvah slowly, to talk to my friends and to daven to Hashem.
What is your favorite mitzvah in the Torah? Chesed. Chesed is kindness, is compassion. You go up to the average Jew in the street, you say, what's your favorite mitzvah? He says, I love doing kindness and compassion to everyone in the world.
אני לא מדבר אנגלית אבל, אני לא יודע איך לענות. Tzedakah, where you give 10% of what you make.
Respect my father and my mother.
Honor your father and mother.
Yeshuva, I guess.
Yeshuva, it's settling the land.
That's in every sense. That's it's a big. It's fairly encompassing.
איזה מצווה הכי חביבה עליך?
כיבוד הורים.
מצוות גמילות חסדים.
Lighting Shabbat candles. It's we all do it. All the women around the world that are Jewish.
And why is that meaningful for you?
Because it's like when everyone does one thing that's the same. It's like we're all united.
What is your favorite mitzvah?
Shabbat.
I'd actually say Shabbos. It's my favorite thing. It's just a day off, completely day off.
A day beyond the natural realm.
Yeah.
Keeping Shabbos. Lighting candles on Shabbat.
Yeah, I'd go with Shabbos.
My favorite mitzvah in the Torah. Onik Shabbos.
A lot of people are saying Shabbat. Why do you think so many people love Shabbat so much?
Because it's a very special day. It's unique to our religion.
Oh, favorite mitzvah. Oh, there's so many. To love Hashem with all of your heart.
What one guiding principle do you live by?
To keep God's mitzvot. To keep all the mitzvot every day. To live Judaism.
what does the Torah mean to you?
Everything.
Kimitzion Tetzei Torah, that the Torah comes out of Zion, comes out of Yerushalayim, so Yerushalayim is where we should be on the holiday that we receive the Torah.
המשמעות שלי, שבועות זה יום חתונה. יום חתונה עם השם יתברך והתורה הקדושה.
We should all be zochi to come to Eretz Yisrael, the Yehudim, from Chutz La'aretz, and to dance in the Beit HaMikdash quickly, speedily in our days.
רבי נחמן אומר, למה עם ישראל קיבלו את התורה במדבר? כי להראות לנו שאם לא היו מקבלים את התורה, אז העולם היה כמו מדבר.
אנחנו בעצם שליחים של הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולם, אנחנו צריכים להפיץ את האור בעולם. אנחנו יהודים, הגויים מסתכלים עלינו. אנחנו צריכים לקיים מצוות, להיות בשמחה, להיות ביראה, לאהוב אחד את השני, גמילות חסדים, אהבה.
What is your favorite part of Shavuot?
In Israel specifically is that the entire place closed down and everybody comes together and walks to the Kotel. No matter where you are, everyone just walks there. And you always end up meeting up with random people and the Kotel's packed and everyone's davening till all hours of the night in the morning.
Tens of thousands of people all get together coming from all over Jerusalem and they walk to the old city and it's throughout the night. So basically at 4 o'clock in the morning you can just see hordes of people and it is amazing. It's what you hear about like in the days of old, but it happens today.
What is your favorite part of Shavuot?
I like staying up all night.
Staying up all night learning.
I'll probably be in a yeshiva somewhere celebrating the holiday.
And you're going to be learning all night?
Probably.
I'm going to study all night, of course.
What are you going to do to stay awake?
Coffee.
That's a daring and courageous declaration that you are going to stay up all night this year. That's powerful.
I might need some assistance of like, I don't know, a lot of coffee or...
My rabbi will keep me awake.
We're going to intravenous coffee drip actually.
Have you ever fallen asleep on Shavuot and woken up being in a wave of Hasidim? They're carrying you around in a mosh pit. Your fingers in a cup of warm water, a mustache is scribbled on your face and you're totally bald. In the middle of a busy intersection surrounded by pagan pygmies who are worshipping you as their deity. In the 15th century, in Spain, being tortured in the Inquisition under a critical dilemma.
No.
Yeah. No. Thank you.
So now for the star of our evening. Rabbi Shlomo Katz is truly a leader of a new generation in Israel, who's bringing a new spirit to Judaism, a new perspective on the Torah, who's combining music and Judaism together. We talk about Shavuot being experiencing God, because you can't just learn Judaism or study Judaism. You can talk about Shabbat until you're blue in the face, or talk about Jewish marriage until you're blue in the face, but until you experience Shabbat, until you experience what it means to be close to Hashem in a deep meditative prayer, no one will ever understand. So Rabbi Shlomo Katz is here to bring us that experience. So please everyone, welcome Rabbi Shlomo Katz.
Thank you for coming, Rabbi Shlomo Katz. This is actually one of the upshots, one of the many billions of upshots of living in Jerusalem, that I get to run into you just in the streets, like such a great leader. And I always accost you and ask you whatever is going on. So I'm going to accost you right now and ask you, Shavuot is coming up. Share us and teach us about Shavuot.
Shavuot. We mentioned before that, I think you mentioned before that it's also the birthday and the day of anniversary of death of King David HaMelech. But Shavuot is also the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem, the founder of the Hasidic movement, who was born in 1698, I believe. And what the Baal Shem Tov brought into the world, many people far greater and wiser and smarter than myself could share. But the little that I feel that is personally connected to, the Baal Shem Tov brought down into the world that it's possible. It's possible to feel that God cares about you with the limited knowledge that you have. It's possible to reach the highest heights with whatever the smallness that you have. And a lot of people out in the world, what triggers them? What's that moment, like you talked about, that experience? What triggers them? What triggers them to get closer to the Torah? It's that I could feel close to Hashem. I could feel close to God. God could actually feel close to me. Shavuot is the eternal bridging of that gap. And I believe that one of the Baal Shem Tov's greatest dreams would be exactly what's going on today in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, exactly what's going on here tonight, where people could actually really stand up and say, it's happening. I am feeling closer, and no one is going to tell me otherwise.
Thank you. So, you're a follower of Reb Shlomo Carlebach. I mean, you sing his songs, you sing his music, you teach his Torahs. What is it about Reb Shlomo that you said, this is it, this is the guy, this is my Rav, this is who I want to follow in the footsteps of?
Reb Shlomo was the first that he made me feel that it's possible for me. That's the truth. He made me feel it's possible for me to feel that I matter, that I care. And I'll just share with you very briefly is that he had just passed away from this world. He had just passed away. And a new kid that moved into the neighborhood, Baal Tshuva, a guy that just had recently become observant. He would always sit during recess. We were in 9th grade, I believe, 9th grade. Every recess he'd sit down and he'd put on his headphones. We're all out going to play ball. And he is sitting, the guy with the weird yarmulke and those really weird things behind his ears, right? Payas. He would be sitting there and he had headphones on. So one day I said, okay, brother, his name is Ido. And I went up to him and I said, Ido, Ido, what are you listening to? He said, you really want to know? And my answer, thank God, was the beginning of this path. He put on the earphones. I'll never forget the rest of my life that voice. It wasn't a choice. It was bittul. It was self-knowledge. It was a surrendering. And from that day on, that's it.
Wow.
Well, Rav Shlomo, he really was in touch with the thirst of the younger generation. You're that today. You are in touch. You're on the road all the time. You're really going out there. What have you seen as the thirst?
I'll tell you, one of the greatest privileges of being on the road is not when people come up and tell you that you've touched our hearts, but literally being touched by so many people all over the world. You know, Reb Shlomo once sat down for a gathering in 1985 in Santa Monica together with some random people by the names of Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, actually. And they got together in some shack in Santa Monica, and someone thought it'd be a great opportunity to ask Reb Shlomo one of these questions, like, what is it about the world? What do you feel? So Reb Shlomo said, you know, brother, my greatest dream in the world is to be able to greet and hug and say hello to every person in the world. Dylan says, that's my biggest nightmare. But to be touched by someone, but at the same time touching them, is the greatest gift in the world. And the thirst for people that want to feel, again with the message of Shavuot, that they want to feel counted, is only getting stronger and stronger. The thirst and the hunger, like the Navi says, like the Prophet says, this thirst and hunger today is nothing to do with bread and water. It has nothing to do with bread and water. The world is waiting for us Jewish people to be Jewish people. That's it.
So, what do you think we need to do as the Jewish people to get people excited about Torah, to overcome the obstacles, to make people really understand, to see the depths, to see the beauty, to see the excitement? What do we need to do?
Well, we ourselves have to remember what Matan Torah, what the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai was about. I mean, it has nothing to do with telling the world anything on a certain level. On a much deeper level, we have to remember the whole point of the whole thing. And that's that when God took us out of Egypt, brought us to Mount Sinai, and we became the chosen people, right, which was already granted to Avram Avinu, to our father Abraham, we have to remember what this chosenness means. Us being chosen has nothing to do with, I'm a Jew, you're a non-Jew, so you better look up to me. Our shlichut, our message to the world is that we are chosen to remember to show the world that they're beautiful too. We're chosen to show people how special they are. We're not chosen to use whatever language we want. We're not chosen to act whatever way we want. The world will only realize how chosen we are when they remember how special they are too. That was Reb Shlomo's message his whole life.
Wow, thank you. So what would your message be? If you had one message that you could broadcast to the entire world, one idea, one message, what would that message be? It's a tough one.
Our great sage Reb Nachman of Breslov says that we're not who we are. Our essence is not who we are right now, but our essence is what we want. What we want defines who we are. Our ratzon, our will, that defines who we are. So the main message I would share is that we finally believe that we could all pray together. We have to daven together. We have to pray together and refine what it is exactly that we want in the world. What is it exactly that I want? Not what am I talking about, not what I'm busy doing, but what is my true will and desire? And that's the only way. And the only way to do this is by becoming best friends. And in Hebrew, there's a few different words to say friend. Chaver, which means friend, and it comes from the word chibur, connect. But there's a deeper word that we use, especially on Friday night, yedid. Yedid nefesh. A yedid is also a friend. And in Slonim, in the Hasidic dynasty of Slonim, they teach that the word yedid comes from yad and yad. A real friend is someone that is always holding on to your hand, no matter what. So just give us all a blessing and bless me back that we should become best friends. Mamash, best friends in the world.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reb Shlomo. Thank you. Thank you. So Shavuot is King David's birthday. And you look at King David, he came from Ruth in Yehudah. Ruth the Moabite, and Boaz, who was the descendant from the house of Judah. Moab, of course, came from Lot. Moab, Me'av, from father, because Lot's daughters created Lot. So Ruth really came from incest. Yehudah, the descendants of Yehudah, came from Tamar, prostitution. We're saying that King David, our Mashiach, comes from incest and prostitution. That's where our redemption is going to come from. How could that possibly be? How could it be that our redemption, our Mashiach, comes from such peculiar, such weird, dirty, bad origins? Shavuot and King David are here to teach us the most powerful message that we need most today. Because people look at Israel and they look at a corrupt leadership. If it's the president or the prime minister or the chief of staff, they look at all of the challenges that face Israel and they say, that's the redemption? Atchalta de Geula? That? Secular Zionists? How could that possibly be our redemption? Look at this ugly, gross place. And Shavuot and King David are here to teach us that's the secret of our redemption. It's going to come from where you never would have expected it. You never would have thought. How could it possibly come from such a dark place as secularism, nationalism, racism? How could that possibly be? But King David is here to remind us that from the blink of an eye, Keheref Ayin, the Mashiach will come and our redemption will be here. Shalom from Jerusalem.
got? Oh, oh. Even you up there, everybody, everybody. One more time, Chavre, help us out. Oh, oh. Let's go, everybody.